goodness gracious. What a way to start my well, it's afternoon actually, isn't it? It's almost, I don't know what time it is. Hi, cutie.
How are you?
I was so, you know what? I was so excited. I don't really care when people actually come to my house or not for podcast purposes, as long as I don't really have to go far. But I was kind of looking forward to giving you a big hug with your big, hot, masculine body.
Bring it.
I haven't seen you in so long.
It's been a long time. I was thinking today as well how much I was looking forward to connecting with you. It's nice to see you again.
You know what? I did something so embarrassing, but of course I know I can tell you. I was at this restaurant in Santa Monica and I saw Zachary Levi. And I was talking to him like it was you until halfway through the conversation. I said, "Are you seeing anyone now?" And I don't remember what he said, but he intimated somehow he was, seeing a woman. And I was like, "A woman?" He said, What are you talking about? He said, "What are you talking about?" And then I was like, this is not who I think it is.
Oh, wow.
So it's like I have the condition that you have on your show, Brilliant Minds.
Yeah. Right, face blindness.
Prosopagnosia. That sounds like a word I want to add to my repertoire.
Yeah. It's a good out in situations like that. I'm so sorry, Zachary Levi. I suffer from prosopagnosia. I thought you were someone else. That is a good way to exit the awkward situation if you have to.
And what is it called? What is the layman term for that?
Face blindness.
Face blindness, which your
Correct.
Character on your show, Brilliant Minds, which is fucking awesome, by the way.
Thanks.
I just watched 3 episodes.
Oh, wow.
I worked
Thank
out.
You
had me working out for 3 hours this morning because I was like, I'll play
That's why
the
you
next
look so
one.
amazing. I'll take all the credit.
And then I'll play the next one. But that's a great show on Peacock that I didn't know about, and now I know about, and we need to tell everybody that doesn't know about it how great it is. Because first of all, I love a procedural, don't you? Too,
absolutely.
I love the premise, and I love a doctor for good, taking chances, taking risks for the good of everybody's. Because there's obviously a very metaphysical aspect to this show.
Yeah. Well, it's based on a real life person. I think that's always a good place to start. When we're talking about Brilliant Minds, it's based on Oliver Sacks, actually. This is right on my desk. I didn't plant that, but he has a book coming out, edited by Kate Edgar, who heads the Oliver Sacks Foundation. Oliver Sacks was a prolific author as well as a revolutionary neurologist in the mid-20th century. And he wrote dozens and dozens of books, case studies about his patients, and The Man Who Mistook His Wife for a Hat, most notably Awakenings, many Musicophilia, Anthropologist on Mars. There are tons of books that he wrote. He also wrote many essays and gave many lectures and speeches. He was an incredible man, and he was driven by the pursuit of understanding who his patients were before they were stricken with whatever neurological condition, disease, disorder, or injury befell them. And he was always, that was always his North Star. The engine of his purpose was to find their dignity and their sense of personhood within whatever they were struggling with. And it set him apart in a lot of ways. And he really revolutionized the field of medicine and also the field of literature, right? Because medicine has become so diagnostic, and technology and the advancements of technology have allowed medicine to become so diagnostic. We've lost the humanity of medicine. And Oliver Sacks was somebody who was pretty singularly interested in resurrecting the humanity of medicine. And so our show, while I don't play Oliver Sacks, I play a character who is based on him, and every aspect of the character that I play is drawn from the actual life of Oliver Sacks. But the character that I play exists in a modern day story in a world that's taking place right now.
Getting this role must have really added to your own kind of, I want to say spirituality, but perhaps there's a better word for it.
Consciousness.
Consciousness. Yes. Thank you. There you go. Consciousness.
Right.
Has it?
Yes. 100%. It's really kind of been amazing for me to zoom out and see how all of my experiences have brought me to this place. Oh, hello. You've come to say hello. Come here. I know you
show
want
us.
Of course.
Oh, thank God it's not a cat.
No,
Hi, cutie.
This is Skunk.
Hi, Skunk.
14.
Oh, my goodness.
He rarely comes into the office.
Oh yeah, yeah. My dog is usually in the office, but
Yeah.
he's just staring at us from across the room.
My
So I
other
don't know
dog
where
is
he
doing
is.
that too. I have two dogs. One big, one little.
And
Um,
yeah, your consciousness. So
yeah,
this has
yeah.
been added
Just the
has
idea,
added to your
just
consciousness.
the idea of like where our journeys take us, right? And that at this moment, particular moment, that I'm playing this role in this show and putting this message out into the world. There are no mistakes, I find, and I do feel like it is an evolution of where I've been. And I think Oliver Sacks and my intersection with him, I sadly never got to meet him while he was still alive, but my intersection with him in this creative way and in this profoundly meaningful way to me is something very special. And so Oliver Sacks was somebody who was um, really designed to examine the last frontier of the human experience, which is the brain, the mind, and consciousness. And I know, Chelsea, we share this quest in our own journeys in individual ways. Like you and I are both, I think one of the reasons why I've always been so drawn to you is, we're very similar age and I think you're just as you're curious in a similar way to me. And what I've watched of you and read of you and know of you, you and I kind of will never stop digging. And Oliver Sacks was like that, right? So the excavation, the process of excavation of who we are as human beings is something that drove him and motivated him. And similarly, I think it drives me and motivates me and you too. And so it's no mistake that we're all talking about this right now. And so in terms of consciousness and where we are in consciousness right now, I think it is a pivotal moment in our evolution as a civilization, as a species. And I think Oliver Sacks is as much a part of that conversation as you and I are right now, sitting here
Yeah,
in the
and
flesh.
including everybody. Actually, it's
100%.
a world. Yeah, because I think we were just talking about that book, Letting Go. I don't know if you've read that. Have you ever read that by David Hawkins?
Yeah.
It's a great book about consciousness, but it's just
great
about
job.
how leading with love, and like love really is the answer to everything.
Yes.
Like stop resisting, stop fighting, stop arguing, stop
Yes.
being negative, stop getting in negative patterns that you can't get out of, but you can get out of them. It's never too late to get out of your negativity. And like the vibes, bring the vibes up. You know what I mean? When
Bring
you're
the
around
vibes up.
somebody and you leave them and you feel better after having seen them, that's because they have high vibes, and then they're infecting you by osmosis with their high vibes. And my goal and our goal as a planet should obviously be like,
That's right.
so much love could heal, and hate doesn't bring us anything good. It
Right.
just brings us more acrimony.
I'm so happy to hear you say this, and just to piggyback on that, we are living in this moment right now. It is such an unprecedented time. What we're experiencing right now, the ground is shifting beneath our feet as we're standing on it. So there's an urgent need right now. The urgent need of the time right now is for exactly what you're saying, is for everybody who has even the faintest inkling of that sensibility that you just articulated to do whatever they can do to tune their listening to that vibration and allow that vibration to strengthen within them, and then allow that strengthening of the vibration within them to reverberate in other people that will then continue to amplify that out and out and out. And what we're witnessing right now, in my estimation, is that we have collectively, we have decided to focus on the wrong things. And all of this attention, if you look at how it's built and built and built, and it's really building to this election, isn't it? Right? You look at how it's built, and I'm not just talking about in the United States, but just in terms of, the broader spectrum. We have created these paradigms that are based in the binary, one way or the other, right or wrong, black and white. I'm on this side, you're on that side. When the reality is that those are all reactions that are coming from a place of completely justifiable and understandable fear. Fear has driven us to this place of binary thinking and clinging to the constructs that we have all agreed upon for generations are going to be the foundation of how we relate to one another and how we see one another and how we think of one another. But when we really zoom out and consider what we are up against and what we are now, not about to, but what we are now entering into moving forward, right? The existential crises that present themselves to us, namely, and there are many, I don't need to name them all, but namely climate change and artificial intelligence. Let's just start there. Climate change, we're already seeing. It's not something that's going to happen. We don't have to argue about it. I don't want to get into the semantics of the black and white of it, right? North Carolina, Florida, in the last 2 weeks, we have seen these unprecedented, catastrophic, cataclysmic experiences that are just the beginning, but they are happening at an accelerated rate.
Mm-hmm.
They're happening more frequently, and they're happening in more anomalous situations, like in the mountains of North Carolina, where they shouldn't be happening, right? So if we take this as the harbinger of what's to come, we recognize that within the next 10, 15, certainly 20 years, the kinds of mass migrations that we're going to see on the planet, right? The tens of millions of people who are going to have to move from place to place because the place that they're in now are no longer inhabitable. That's one thing. And then you just blowing underneath that, artificial intelligence and machine learning, we've already invited that into the conversation. We don't know what it's capable of. We don't know how fast or how dramatically it's going to evolve, but we've already brought it into the conversation. So it's already here. People are already using Chat GPT to write their cover letters. And, so it's already here. We're divesting ourselves of the experience of being human. We're outsourcing the human experience to this artificial intelligence, and we have no idea where that's going to take us. So collectively, we are on the precipice of change that we can't even fathom. Because if you add just those two variables, and there are many others, but if you add just those two variables to the equation, then we have no idea what the future looks like. And so the constructs that we've agreed upon in the past are rapidly dissolving. And my feeling is that consciousness and the rapid expansion of consciousness is the only way that we have any chance of moving forward with success, to thrive or to survive even. So for me, it is exactly what you're saying. And I think people all around the planet right now are feeling it and sensing it. And even if they don't know what it is, they're tapping into something bigger than themselves, because it's everywhere you look. And it is our responsibility to amplify that and bring people into the light, just like you're saying. So I'm glad to hear you say it. I know I feel like I've been talking for about 17 minutes without shutting up, but I feel so strongly about it right now. And it feels so urgent that we have to talk about it.
I agree with you. I feel the same way. I'm intent on spreading, as infecting as many people with kindness as I can.
Do you meditate?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, good.
Do you? What kind of meditation do you do?
I do Vedic meditation, which is an offshoot of TM. So it's the same technique as TM. It's just a different community, and it's a twice daily practice, mantra based. What about you?
I do a Chopra app mostly. I do a Chopra, like a guided meditation, about 20 minutes each morning.
Right. So Chopra comes from the Vedic world. I mean, that Deepak Chopra is that is the same. We are the same in that practice. And I say to anybody who has a meditation practice right now, and especially for the next 3 weeks before the election, meditation. It is DEFCON 5, all hands on deck. If you have a practice or you know people who have practices, now is the time to come to your practice and hold space. Because not only do we have to hold space for our own experiences, we have to be able to hold space for the experience of the collective. Because this is a collective shift of consciousness that's happening right now. It's not an individual shift of consciousness. It is happening on the individual level, on the micro level. But if you zoom out and look at the macro level, just think about what we're fighting about, right? Think about what we're fighting about. Think about the Middle East. The Middle East is, I am not wading into those waters in terms of the politics, the history. I have no authority or knowledge to do so. However, I will say that it is one of the binaries that is the most kind of volatile binaries on the planet right now. But if you zoom out, the reality is that what we're fighting over is land that will be uninhabitable in the next 25 years by anybody. so that the Palestinians and the Jews are going to shoulder walk together to find a place where they all can live and survive. So we are focusing on the hatred. We're focusing on, we no longer have the luxury to be defined by the constructs that have defined us for the last hundreds of years and generations. We just as a civilization no longer have the luxury of being defined by whether we're Jewish or Palestinian or gay or straight or cis or trans or black or white. That conversation is over. And how we recognize the end of that conversation and evolve that conversation into what the new conversation has to be is the moment that we're living through right now. And as terrifying as it is also profoundly full of beauty and possibility and creativity and joy. And that is our job, to move in that direction and to move toward that. Because we're not going to change anybody's minds. We're not going to change anybody. And the reality is as well that, the planet can't sustain the current trajectory of population that we're, barraging it with. So the reality is that things are going to shift cataclysmically, and they already are. Look at the wars. Look at the natural disasters around the planet. There's nothing we can do to stop that stuff. But what we have to do is evolve, adapt. And, that's what Oliver Sacks believed. That's why there's no mistake that I happen to be, playing this character right now at this moment. Think about all the fucking dark, twisted, fucked up characters I've played. So, and my own journey from the dark into the light. And now I get to play a role and tell stories and put them into the world from a place of evolution and adaptation. And on my own personal journey, that's been true. And I think creatively that's been true, and hopefully collectively that will be true as well as we continue to move forward.
This was like a sermon.
Oh my gosh,
I loved it.
This was not what I was expecting today, but
I know.
lovely.
I mean, look at you. I mean, I really couldn't have said it better myself. I love it.
I'm glad to hear it. I'm sorry I went on a rant, but I've just been thinking about it so much, and also there's no mistake that I'm doing fucking press for the. Can I swear? I can swear, right? It's you.
Yeah, of
Well, I
course.
shouldn't have been asked.
Obviously.
But
Chelsea
that
Handler's
I'm
podcast.
doing press, that I have an opportunity to kind of connect with like-minded people in this way, and I just knew coming into this that you're probably on the same wavelength, because that's why I've always been drawn to you, even before I met you or knew you, and I just saw you as someone who is asking the questions, pushing the boundaries, not letting yourself off the hook, digging deeper. And that's what we need. We need to reach out to one another and then bring the people who are kind of aware of that sensibility, even if they haven't completely accessed it themselves, along for the journey that is ahead.
Because the true definition or the true meaning of consciousness isn't just being conscious about what's happening in your life. It's about having a collected consciousness with the entire world. So every single person matters in the same way. There aren't people who matter more or less
right,
at
exactly,
all.
yeah.
And that's where, and so it does feel like a tipping point, especially if the election goes the way that I want it to.
Yeah.
I feel like that we all want it to, that are here, sitting here today.
Well,
I feel like, then we really do have an opportunity to change the world, because, climate change is it's out the door.
Yeah.
It's happening.
Yeah.
And what we need in response to that is not more fighting.
Right.
We need all hands on deck
Sure.
and love
Totally.
to receive these people who are no longer going to have a safe place to live, to actually be able to help and
Yeah.
aid and send aid.
Yeah.
There's so many things that we're going to have to deal with. Can you imagine having additional wars
Yeah.
and then climate change?
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
it's like,
And
let's stop with the wars and start with the
the
love.
wars that climate change
Yeah.
is going to ignite, right? So the other thing that I think is important to kind of bring into this conversation a little bit about evolution is that one essential element of evolution is destruction. That's just a simple fact of nature: creation, maintenance, destruction. These three operating forces are always at play in nature. And if we consider that as human beings, we are individual expressions of nature. If we're operating from this place, which is scientifically proven, that we are all extensions of one unified field of consciousness, right? This is quantum physics. This is, what is far beyond my level of intellectual capacity to understand, let alone explain. But quantum physics proves the idea that all matter comes from one source, which is unmanifest, and then becomes manifest. Then we all do come from the same place, right? We are all connected in ways that we don't even comprehend or understand, and yet we have lived in a world that for millennia has really existed on this idea of individual identity, right? Personal egoic identity. And now we are confronted with profound transformations that no longer allow us to hide behind those constructs, right? Those constructs are dissolving. And now we have to accept the fact that destruction in many forms is a part of progress. And so the election, for example, I think represents two very different paths. Are we going to move forward with an administration who has some awareness of and some understanding of the context as it is in a larger sense? Or are we going to move forward with an administration who is completely limited in their ability to see what's actually happening and focused on holding on to the past, returning to something that never will be?
Well, on that note, we're going to take a break and we're going to be right back with Zachary Levi. Okay, so for Zachary Quinto, for this portion of the show, we take callers, and I know that you're excited to give advice to some people because you're good at it, and it's real people,
Great.
So it's exciting. I find it very, very, what's the word? It's more than satisfying. It feels meaningful.
Okay, good.
There's connection there, which is just what we've been talking about.
Oh, great.
The shared consciousness, and now we'll share some consciousness.
Yeah, let's share our consciousness with others. We're going to infect some more people.
Yeah. Well, our first question is just an email. This comes from Amanda. TLDR,
What does that mean?
What? Oh, it means too long, didn't read. So it's like a summary. TLDR, I want to not give a shit what other people in my workout bubble look like so I can stop comparing myself to them. As an athletic, healthy 44-year-old woman who loves to stay active, I've always tried to embrace a positive relationship with my body. I'm not trying to look like a 20-something anymore. I've always loved the gym, and during COVID, I discovered the Tracy Anderson method. I've completely fallen for it. I practice 5 to 6 times a week and truly enjoy the process. But constantly being bombarded by this and other fitness marketing online can sometimes have a negative impact on my self-esteem. I often find myself feeling self-deprecating and critical of my body, especially when I compare myself to the trainers and many women who post their workouts with their perfect size 2 bodies and somehow have their makeup and hair looking perfect to boot. I often will record myself training, but then I see myself and I'm mortified and won't post it. It's like a downward spiral. I know I shouldn't let these comparisons affect me, especially at my age, but I find it challenging to appreciate my body and health when I'm bombarded with unrealistic standards. It's gotten so much worse in my 40s. I'm a grown-ass, smart, educated woman. Why do I let this bother me, and how can I stop comparing myself to picture-perfect bodies? I just want to feel happier about my own body. Warmly, Amanda.
Okay. Zachary, would you like to lead this one?
I don't know. What do you think? You're very active. I've seen you ski topless down many a mountainside.
Yes. I would say on the subject of letting go, let it go. Stop. If looking at other videos and fitness videos or people in your class posting or looking at them while you're working out, if those things bother you, focus on yourself.
Yeah.
Just focus on yourself. Everybody has these feelings that you're talking about, but it's up to you to cut the cord of comparison. That's why I don't spend 5 hours a day online looking at people's Instagrams.
Right.
That's because it's bad for you.
Yeah.
It's bad to compare. What is it? Comparison is the thief of joy. Comparison is the thief of joy.
Yeah, sure.
That's the latest quote that's been going around that I heard. And it is so true. That is not your body. That is not your problem. You're your problem.
Yeah.
And you can either make yourself victorious or you can make yourself a problem. So the fact I would say that you're working out 5 to 6 times a day I've done that workout before. That's not easy. You should be celebratory of the fact
that you're doing
you are doing the best that you can do, and stop comparing yourself to other people. That is a losing scenario. So write something down on your fridge or your mirror or wherever you look at the most and say, stop, comparison is the thief of joy. Write that down. That's all
good.
you need to know.
Comparison
and imprint
is
it in your mind.
Right. I like that.
And
sound.
Once you read something enough times, you don't need to see it every single day. You remember when you wake up,
Precisely.
and then it becomes part of who you are. Because, I just don't think you don't get any benefit from depleting yourself of the pride that you have earned from going and working out to make yourself feel better every single day. Why are you letting anyone take that away from you?
And I would also only just say that, this difference between where are you looking for your sense of self? Where are you looking for your sense of validation and purpose and meaning in the world? Are you looking outside of yourself for that? So you're looking to import that feeling from people's reactions to you, like, oh my God, you look so good, or you lost so much weight, or you look so skinny. So then you feel better about yourself. Well, that's importing that feeling from somewhere else, as opposed to allowing the discipline, the commitment, the endorphins, the progress that you're making in your own life to be the source of your fulfillment, which you can then radiate and export out to the world. So this difference between importing a sense of validation and exporting a sense of validation. When you're importing a sense of validation, you need to keep looking for it. You need to keep looking for it from other people. You need to keep looking for it from whatever, is it comparison? Is it, I'm successful, I'm in love, I'm whatever. So you're looking for it somewhere else, and then it's unsustainable. But if you're able to shift that focus and recognize that what you're doing by committing to your own well-being, committing as a 44-year-old woman, I think she said, to, embracing life and staying active and keeping your body engaged, that's more than 95% of people on the planet are doing. So shift your focus to recognize how wonderful that is. What a generous thing you're doing for yourself, right? And then you can hopefully, focus that energy on yourself, and then cultivate a place from which that gratitude and that pride, that well-deserved self-directed pride, can then be something that other people see in you and recognize as something that inspires them. Then you're magnetizing people into your experience who are drawn to you because you have generated this light that brings them in, not because you're looking for other people to shine their light on you to make you feel better.
Right. It doesn't matter how banging your bod is if your vibration is low.
Yeah, or it doesn't matter how banging your bod is if all you care about is that other people see that or feel that way.
Say that. Yeah,
Exactly. But I love what you just said, because it's, you can attract people on so many different levels and in so many different ways.
Yeah.
You're focusing on the wrong thing. Like, infuse yourself with the positivity that you derive from working out, and just let that be. And I promise you're going to have a different outlook.
Yeah. This might be a great place too to incorporate. Chelsea recommends a gratitude journal, and do that for 30 days of just focusing on here's what my body can do. Here's what I was able to do yesterday. Here's how strong I feel today, and really focusing on that for 30 days.
Yeah. And what also, I just talked to someone about this, and it was somebody who was very unexpectedly wrote a gratitude journal that I was like, really? He must have been a straight man. But anyway, he was saying to me that he did do it, not at my behest, but at someone else's, a friend of mine. And he said, I mean, it's vibrationally, like how you can change your attitude, how you can change your outlook. Like it's a matter of days if you just put that down to practice. Like all these little things you can do to keep the vibes high. So
it wasn't Zachary Levi, was it?
It was probably Zachary Levi.
It was.
I mean, most things are Zachary Levi with me. So,
well, thanks, Amanda, and let us know if that changes things for you. Our next question comes from Brian, and he's going to be calling in.
Is it Zachary Levi?
Yeah, he identifies as Brian.
He does. So Brian says, "Dear Chelsea, I've recently started dating a new guy, and he's absolutely wonderful. He's got a great job, he's super sweet, and has a good support system around him, and texts in full, complete sentences."
Hey.
I know Chelsea will appreciate that one.
I do appreciate that.
There's just one caveat. He's undetectable, untransmittable, HIV positive, meaning his viral load is so low that he's not able to pass it along, or so the science says. I have, however, heard of cases where this has still occurred. I'm also on PrEP, so that's another layer of protection. And obviously condoms can be used as well, although I'm allergic to latex and haven't used condoms in years. I really like this guy, and we're at the point of exploring things physically. I just have some worries with this, as it's a huge potential risk, I feel. It's a risk I'm willing to take in the right situation, for sure. I just don't know when that time is. Sincerely, Brian.
Hi, Brian.
Hi, Brian.
Hi, this is our special guest, Zachary Quinto, today.
Hi,
How are you?
Quinto. I'm great. How are you?
Nice to meet you.
Is
How are you?
it
nice to meet
Quinto
you.
or
I'm such a
Quinto?
fan.
Am
No,
I
you're
saying
right. You're right, Chelsea. It's Quinto.
Quinto? Okay, sorry. He's telling you he's a fan. I'm like, is it Quinto? Queef? Quit? I'm like sitting here like an asshole. Sorry.
No, it's
Anyway,
Quinto.
welcome to our show. I'm glad you guys. I'm glad you're both here. That's a great question. Have you spoken to your doctor
Yeah, that was
about
my
this
first
at all?
question too.
Not specifically about this situation, about, protection and to begin with. I think that's why I started PrEP about 1.5 years ago. So I've had kind of the general overlying conversation, but not specifically about this situation yet.
Yeah.
I mean,
well,
I agree
think-
with Chelsea. I think that is certainly the place to start, to sit down with your doctor and explain the situation and come up with a plan that your doctor feels is reliable, medically sound and reliable. But I mean, the evolution of medical technology is so incredible, and our generation has benefited from that so greatly. So between PrEP, which you're on, and his treatment, which keeps him undetectable, I mean, the percentage chance of transmission is like point something, right? Like 0.0 something. I think it's really, really low. Right. And so how long have you been together?
Not long. Say about a month.
Okay.
But it's a
So,
little
right.
bit long distance. So we've been on probably like 6 or 7 dates. I'm supposed to see him tonight, actually. So
Oh, wow. Exciting.
yeah.
And how openly are you able to talk about it with him?
Communication's been really great. He was very, forthcoming from the beginning, and gave a lot of information and answered any and all questions. So that was good. I think it's just, for me, the big question is, do I want to, and even though the risk is super, super low, do you want to take that risk if it's not something that's going to work out?
Yeah.
And so that's the question that I think I have for him, but I don't know exactly how to phrase that and come across obviously endearing with compassion.
Yeah. I mean, I would just say from my experience, communication. Share your feelings, because if your relationship is meant to evolve into something substantive and meaningful and sustainable, then communication is the only foundation on which you can build a relationship for which that will be true. So you have to be able to bring all the parts of yourself, the scared parts, the vulnerable parts, the parts that you feel like might get rejected, to the conversation from the beginning. Because if what you're navigating is, hey, are you feeling this way that I'm feeling, like that this could be something significant, and he is feeling that way, then the conversation will lead you to the next phase or the next chapter, right? But I don't think you can make it all about this one issue. I think what you need to do is figure out a way to maybe separate out, that concern with the bigger question, which is like, hey, are we doing this thing? Because if you're doing this thing and you're together, then as long as you have a foundation of openness, honesty, and communication, there's nothing else you can't figure out.
No, absolutely. No, I really appreciate that. Speaking of making it about a whole conversation, there's been an update since I wrote in and since I talked to Catherine last week.
Oh, yes.
You're
Then
pregnant.
again, it's been moving forward, and so it's been moving in the right direction and all that. However, on Thursday, I was with him, and he told me that he's kind of unhappy at his place of work right now. But there's one boss that's kind of kept in there that he's very, very close with, and he got word that boss is potentially leaving for a job out of state, and they've asked him to go if it all works out. So he has some big decisions to make with that. It wouldn't happen for like 4 to 6 months, even if it did happen. So that's kind of a new wrinkle that's been
Well,
thrown in.
where would he go? Because it's already long distance. So where would he move?
Well, long distance now, it's only about 45 minutes to an hour, so it's not bad. It's definitely
Oh, okay.
manageable to see each other a couple times a week at least, but this would be 5 hours away.
Uh-huh. Okay, well, that's still manageable. I mean, listen, that's a gift sometimes, a little distance.
Totally.
It is. I mean,
I couldn't
you think
agree
the most-
more.
A very
every
small place.
relationship that I know that's successful is because the two people are traveling
100%.
extensively.
Couldn't agree
So
more.
please don't use that as like a reason to not be with someone. It's very good to have space and to have someone 5 hours away is no big deal. That's an hour flight. Or do you mean a 5-hour flight?
It's a 5-hour drive, but it's in the middle of nowhere,
Right.
so there is no direct flight. Or
Well,
I
you
don't
could
even know if they
parachute
have an
in. Don't worry
airport.
about that, right? Yeah. I wouldn't worry about those problems until they arise and they're actually concrete. And I wouldn't consider it a problem. You know what I mean? Just kind of like reframe everything you're talking about. The fact that you guys have had this conversation a month in means that this guy is responsible, is respectful, and actually cares about you, right? I mean, he told you everything he needed to tell you before anything happened. The risk sounds very low. Obviously, I'm not going to give you any medical advice because I'm not a doctor, even though I want to be, and I love medications and pills, and I love giving advice, but I don't want to be responsible for that. But I just, as a gut, I think you're going to be fine, and I understand all of the concerns you have, but we are living in a time that is much different than when AIDS came on the scene. You know what I mean? This is a much different world. People live with it healthfully for like decades, you know? Look at Magic Johnson. And it's not just wealthy people. I have friends who have AIDS
I have
or
a couple
HIV.
of friends as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, just need
Not
to-
that you're trying to get it, but I'm just saying it's not like, you know, it's just not what it was. So I want you to think about it in that frame too, because it's really important to find somebody that you can trust, that you can love, that respects you, and the feeling is mutual.
Yeah.
So I would focus on those issues first, and anything else you can navigate.
Yep.
I appreciate that. Yeah, and he's so sweet, and it's been such a breath of fresh air, and it's definitely something that I want to explore. So I really, really appreciate all the words.
Yeah, you should explore it. See where it takes you. It sounds like a nice beginning to something that, even though there's a lot of unknowns, you know, you can't miss what's meant for you. So if this is something that is supposed to be in your life, then everything will unfold so that is possible.
Great. No, that's really, really great advice. I appreciate it.
Okay.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Brian.
Nice
Of
to meet
course,
you,
Chelsea,
Brian.
I'll see you in a month. I'll be at one of your shows in Texas.
Oh, Texas. You're in Texas. Well, try to get out of there as quickly as you can. But I'll see you there.
All right. Thank y'all.
All right.
Have a good
Bye,
one.
Brian.
Okay,
Thanks so
thanks.
much.
Thanks for calling in.
All right. Well, our next caller is Chris. He says, Dear Chelsea, I recently got engaged to my partner after 18 years. Marriage was never a must, and it just felt like the right time for us, but our relationship is not what my email is about. So when we got engaged, I called to tell my mom the news and got a less than excited response. To be honest, it was exactly the response I expected, so it wasn't a disappointment. However, before she even said her lackluster congratulations, the first thing she said was, "We won't tell your father." This is where I need advice. I've never been particularly close to my dad, and when I came out, it made a not great relationship pretty bad for a few years. I didn't come around for a while. While things have improved, my being gay and in a relationship is just never discussed or talked about. My dad is 95 years old,
Well.
I'm 40, and my mom says he won't be able to handle the news of my engagement, almost implying it would kill him literally. I don't feel right not telling my dad, and I don't need his approval, and I'm not looking for him to all of a sudden embrace my relationship, but I'm also not going to hide my future marriage. How do I handle this? Chris.
Hi, how are you?
Good,
Nice to meet you.
good.
This is Zachary Quinto, our special
Oh my
guest
gosh,
today.
hi, how are you?
Nice to meet you. How are
Yeah.
you?
Good.
Here comes Doug. This is my big black magic
Oh,
right
hey, Doug.
here. Here he goes.
Goody.
Okay. Hi. So congratulations, by the
Oh,
way.
Yeah,
thank
congrats
you.
on your engagement. That's exciting.
you.
That's exciting.
Thank you.
How long have you been with your
Yeah.
partner?
18 years. So,
Okay.
so
Fantastic.
it was time.
Amazing. Okay, cool.
Jeez. 18 years and you're 40?
Yeah. Yep.
So
So you
you've
were
been
like
with
a
him, what,
baby.
since 22 years, 22
Yeah,
years
just-
old, and you're still together?
Just out of college, yeah. hmm
That's
And
amazing.
is he the same age as you are?
No, he's a bit older. He's in his 60s.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so does your mother know him
Yep.
already?
Yeah, my mom does. Yep.
Okay, so she's just is she preventing you from telling your father or suggesting that you not tell your father because of who it is or because of just the fact that you're gay?
Just the fact that I'm gay. I mean, he knows. He's never met my partner, Jeff. For a while, when I first came out, I sort of stayed away from the family for several years. Slowly, I sort of got back in with the family and, went back to doing some family events. Jeff has never met my dad. It's just not something that's talked about. It's just sort of, I'm around just to help keep the peace almost sometimes, it seems.
Well, I'm sorry that that's been your experience. That's pretty disappointing.
Yeah.
I'm sorry too. That is difficult and challenging, and I'm sure probably a heavy thing to carry in the face of such a celebratory moment. So I'm sorry that you're at that crossroads.
And Chris, I wanted to just drop in here as well. Something that came up when we were chatting in our pre-interview was that, like, generally you said that your dad has sort of softened. He's been saying, "I love you" more, hugging. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. He's 95, so he's getting up there in age. So, part of it's just like, is he just set in his ways, but, I don't know, just over the years, whenever I see him and whenever, me and my siblings, when we leave for whatever gathering we're at, he's definitely more affectionate recently. He's saying, "I love you," giving a kiss, I don't know.
I mean, it interestingly, to me, it's an interesting, I guess most things tie back to consciousness, but you have to give him grace, and I guess my advice to you or my sort of reflection back at you is, if you've observed a softening in him, and you've observed this kind of desire to connect more, right? I think you have to recognize what you're up against, right? And for somebody who's 95 years old, that's not getting up there. He's already got there. You know what I mean? That's really, really, no matter how you cut it, he's coming to the end of this part of his experience. And so, if you feel like sharing this news with him is going to cause him any kind of pain or exacerbate his suffering or complicate the end of his life, then as his son, even though you clearly had a complicated relationship with him, I'm sure that's not your motivation here. You don't want to make his life any harder. So maybe there's a way to just find an intimate moment with him and just say something to the effect of, "Dad, I know that we've never really seen eye to eye on certain aspects of who I am. And I understand that, that doesn't mean you love me any less, but it just means that you weren't able to process the reality of who I am in the same way. But I just want you to know that I am really, really happy." Like, if there's a way for you to communicate to him that this moment in your life where you're telling him without telling him. If your mom is concerned that you telling him that you're getting married to your longtime partner who he's never met because he couldn't hold space for you to have that experience is going to make his suffering worse, then is there an opportunity for you to just tell him what you need him to know, which is that he raised a son who is capable of love and who is capable of navigating all of the challenges and all of the obstacles that your father in his limited consciousness forced upon you, not intentionally. Oh, there's my guy. Not intentionally, and not because he wanted to, but because he didn't know any better. And now that he's coming to the end of his journey, with compassion and forgiveness, I think there's a way for you to let him know that you don't resent him for that, and that he can move on from this experience, from his human experience, and know that you are happy and safe. And any father wants to know that for their child.
Yeah, I believe he does. So
that's very beautiful. That is very beautiful, and exactly, I completely agree. I think there is a way to say that, and and I think you're probably going to hear what you want to hear when his time is up. And if you have the luxury of spending, a last few days with him, even if it's the last few hours with him, hopefully you'll have that opportunity. And I guarantee you, well, I don't guarantee you, but I would strongly suspect that during that time, you're going to have an opportunity to share this with him. Yeah. There is really no rush, right? Like, it's not an emergency. Right. You don't have to tell him.
Right.
And, in those moments, or if there's a moment that happens before that, great. But if it's not until then that's a good opportunity too, to when you're saying goodbye, to let him know how happy you are and how happy you are to live a fully realized, actualized existence where you're not hiding, right. And you're being who you are. And there's not a person who doesn't want that for their child.
Totally.
And that you found a partner who loves you and treats you well, and that you've made a life together.
And you've been together for 18 years, so this isn't a lark. This is like,
I know. I'm just so curious how you get engaged after 18 years. Like, what happens?
I just, I've been thinking about it the last year or two. Just felt it was time. We took a trip down to Charleston. We're in Pittsburgh.
Oh, you are? That's where I'm from.
Yeah. I know.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah. Oh, nice. Well, look, I know my fair share about, stubborn, dug-in, older Pittsburghers. So I know what you're up against there. And like, I get it, that's a tough nut to crack. So just like, I just think compassion and forgiveness can be your guide, and that, you'll find a place with him of, mutuality and love, because that's what's there, eventually.
Definitely. Yep. Yeah. I think I'm hoping it would go better than what my mind is thinking. It would go. So.
Yeah, and I do agree with Chelsea. There is no rush.
Yeah, just know that you're gonna have the conversation with him at the appropriate time, and and like surrender it. Just be like, okay, I've decided what I'm gonna do here. Now let me let it go, and then when the opportunity arises, take that opportunity.
Yeah. And I think the more I think about it, it's more for me than it really is for him. I think too. No, I mean, he knows, but he doesn't know the extent of it. Maybe.
It's hard it's hard in families when you have open secrets. It's a difficult thing to navigate, because it's such an unfortunate byproduct of trauma, right? Like, open secrets, like, that's the worst, right? Yeah. So he knows, but he doesn't know, or he knows, but he won't acknowledge it or something. So, and I also recognize, as a gay man myself, I also recognize your position, which is like, I shouldn't have to hide. I shouldn't have to sublimate my love to please this person. Right. But the reality is that, he did the best he could, and it wasn't good enough. And I'm sorry that it wasn't good enough for you. You deserve better, but it sounds like you found better. It sounds like you've created better for yourself. You've evolved beyond the limitations of what he provided for you, or your family of origin provided for you. And so now you have the opportunity to, from that place of expansion, embrace his limited point of view and let him know that it doesn't diminish your appreciation for him, your love for him. And the person that you are today is informed, at least partially and certainly significantly, by him. And so there is gratitude there. And how can you focus on that now that he's in the very, the last chapter of his experience?
Right. Yep. No, I agree. So I would definitely be having this conversation and
also framing everything in the right way. Like, what you said is important. This is more for me than for him. So take that back and think about that. You know what I mean? Because if it is more for you, then hold on to it for a little bit. And thanks for calling in.
Right, thank you.
And best of luck.
Great to meet you.
Have a good one. Thanks.
Thanks,
Bye.
Chris.
Bye. Okay, we're going to take a break and come back. And we're back with Zachary Quinto. Zachary, I have a question about your show. So your character is gay in the show, and Oliver Sacks, he wasn't gay, was he?
Yeah, he was.
He was. Okay. So then I guess I didn't know if that was a request that you made.
No.
To be
Oliver
gay,
Sacks was a gay man who was celibate for 35 years of his life. and that was a real roadblock for me in terms of understanding the character. I couldn't fathom when I first was presented with that fact how someone could make a choice like that, or why someone would make a choice like that. And then the more I dug into it, the more I realized that he recognized that if he came out in his day and age, and he lived and worked in the middle of the 20th century, mostly the 70s, 80s, 90s, and he died in 2015 at the age of 83. So, had he come out, he would have been defined by that aspect of who he was, right? He would have been diminished in his capacity to make the contributions to the field of neurology that he was singularly designed to make. And so he chose to separate himself, to divorce himself from that part of who he was, and to compartmentalize and split off from that part of his identity in order to be able to serve his patients and make the incredible and indelible mark on a medicine that he was able to make. Thankfully, late in his life, he came to terms with his sexuality, and he came out, and he was in a relationship for the last decade or so of his life with a very loving partner, and he found his way to that. But my character on the show is gay. It's the first openly gay lead of a primetime network medical drama.
Wow,
it's a big
love
deal
that.
in that way. But it's a big deal because it's not a big deal, right? It's a big deal because we live in a world, and I live in a world as an openly gay actor, where that aspect of my personality, of my identity, is only one of many aspects of the identity that I move through the world with. And I benefited from the sacrifices of people like Oliver Sacks, who didn't have that same opportunity. So there is some really wonderful through line in that narrative, right? Between the life that Oliver Sacks lived, the life that the character I play, Oliver Wolf, lives, and the life that I live, as an actor and as a person in this modern day. So I feel grateful.
Was there ever
that.
a time? Was there ever a time in your career that you weren't open, when you weren't out?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't come out until 2011. I started working. I mean, Heroes was the show that really changed my life, my career. People started to know me in 2006. So it was the end of 2006 that I became a known quantity, right? Like that I ever had to deal with the idea of what being famous was. And then it was 5 years later that I came out publicly. So there was a 5-year period of time where I was out in my life, and people who knew me knew I was gay, but I never spoke of it publicly until 2011.
And how did that feel?
Well, that was one of the most liberating experiences that I've ever had. I made the decision to come out on my own. I didn't tell anybody. I didn't tell my publicist. I didn't tell my agents or my manager, anybody that I work with. I didn't tell anybody in my life, my boyfriend at the time, my family. I just gave an interview, and I referred to myself as a gay man twice within the interview, so that I put, a fine point on it in case they missed it the first time. And that to me was, I did it in my own time, on my own terms. I didn't seek advice or counsel, or, it wasn't a decision by committee. It was a decision that I made myself. And so I was able to hold that decision for whatever it ended up, whatever the reaction to it was my decision, And so that felt really liberating.
Yeah. I love that.
That's lovely.
I love that. Well, thank you for being with us today, you guys. Everybody, you can watch this wonderful human being on his show on Peacock, on the Peacock Network. I think they want you to call it the Peacock,
on
right?
The Peacock? I don't know. It's on NBC
said
on Monday nights at 10 p.m. For people who watch TV in real time, and then it streams on Peacock, on the Peacock, the next day on Tuesdays.
I'm probably way off, by the way.
I think it might just be Peacock. I think it might just be.
I'm getting confused with all the different platforms and their name changes. It's very confusing.
We can't keep up with it. It'll be something different tomorrow. But
and I hope I get to see you in person sometime soon, Zachary.
I was just about to say that very thing. It is always good to connect with you. I really admire you and respect you and appreciate you and like you. And I hope we can have a meal and, see each other outside of this context at some point. I'm in New York.
Sure.
I'm doing a play here this fall from the end of November until February. If you're in New York, please come to see my play called Cult of Love at the Helen Hayes Theater on Broadway. And if you come, let me know and we can go out after.
Okay, I'm going to write that down right now.
All right.
Cult of Love.
Yeah, come see it.
All
It's
right.
really, I'm really excited.
I would love to.
Yeah, good. Okay.
Okay, honey.
It was such a pleasure
I'll talk
to see
to you later.
So good to see you both. Have a good day.
You too. Thank
right.
you so
Thank you,
much.
Well,
Zachary.
thanks.